this more or less short video, we'll be going over the basic greetings and conversational pieces in Chinese. Now these actors are going to be giving a quick overview of what took me about a semester of Chinese and a very good teacher to learn. Now these actors are going to be beginning with a generic ni hao, which means more or less hello or how are you. It's the basic way of greeting a stranger or an old friend or anyone really.
你好，
你好.
Now once you've greeted, say, some stranger in a Chinese coffee house, you may wish to know their name. And a good way to ask this would be Qing Wen Ni Gui Xin, which means, may I ask your last name? Qing Wen is a common phrase to use with strangers. It's a polite way to ask something of them. Now once you've learned their last name, you may wish to know them even a little bit better than their last name. You may ask, Ni Jiao Shime Mingzi, which means you are called what? And they will respond with Wo Jiao and whatever they wish you to address them by. Now, once you've asked them a question of any sort, they may respond with a Ni Ne, which more or less means, and what about you, or how about you? And you would respond basically to your own question. It's a lazy man's way of carrying on a conversation, which makes it my favorite way to carry on a conversation.
请问你贵姓？
Washington. 你呢？
我姓赖，
你叫什么名字？
我叫赖大卫，你呢？
我叫潘天安。
Keep in mind that these characters are completely fictional, and any relation to any real persons, living or dead, is completely coincidental. Now, once you've greeted this person and learned their name, you may wish to know where they're from, or simply start out a conversation. And a good way to start out a conversation would be to ask where they're from. So you may simply ask where they're from, or you may even take a guess at where they're from. You may be a little hesitant to guess someone's nationality, but you could probably guess with some pretty good accuracy. And supposing you thought this person were American, you may ask, Ni shi mei guo ren ma, which means you are American, then ending with a ma, which would be like adding a question mark more or less to the end of the sentence, turning a statement into a sentence. Now if they are American, they will respond with a shi, and they may restate what you just said, but as a statement, to confirm what you asked. So they might say, if they were American, shi, wo shi mei guo ren. And they may say ni ne once again to ask you the same question. And if you were American, you would simply say shi, and once again ni shi, wo shi mei guo ren ma. If you weren't, however, you would say bu shi, and you would probably say wo shi, and wherever you may be from. So Ingguo ren or Moshi ga ren. So English or Mexican or wherever you may be from.
彭太郎，你是美国人吗？
是，我是美国人。你是中国人吗？
不是，我也是美国人。
And once you've learned where this person is from, you may wish to carry on the conversation even further. If you're a particularly sociable person, you may ask them about their family, which is a good subject to get them going. You may start out by asking simply how many people they have in your family. And you would say this by saying, 我家有几口人, which means you have what number of people in your family, more or less. Now, they would respond probably by saying, 我家有, and then a number corresponding to how many people they have in their family, 口人. So if they had 6, they would say 六 for 6. So 我家有六口人. And if they are particularly sociable as well, they might even list out the members of their family. Now supposing they only had 3 people in their family, their father, the mother, and themselves, they would say, 我爸爸, my dad, 我妈妈, my mom, and 我, and me. And they may ask you the same question, and you respond in a similar manner as well, by saying how many people you have in your family and listing them out.
赖大卫， 你家有几个人？
我家有几个人？我爸爸，我妈妈，我一个哥哥，我三个姐姐，还有我，你呢？
我家有3个人，我爸爸，我妈妈，还有我。
Now, once you learn about this person's family, an even more generic conversational piece to use would be to ask them about their job. And you may simply ask them, Nizwa sheme gongzwa, which means you do what for work. And they would respond by listing their profession, or simply saying they are, or wo shi, and whatever they may be. So wo shi lu shi, I am teacher. Lawyer, wo shi lao shi, I am teacher. Wo shi shui sheng, I am a student. Or any number of things that they could be. If they were to ask you the same thing, you would simply respond with wo shi and whatever you may be.
风采龙最新马光刚最，
我是深圳，你呢？
我是老师，你喜欢刚做吗？
是，我是one guns one，你是one guns one 吗？
是。
I notice how the actors, once they had stated their professions, had asked each other, Ni Shihuan Gongzhuo Ma, which would be asking them if they liked the work they do. And they would respond with Bu Shihuan or Wo Shihuan, which means I like or I don't like, depending on whether they like it or not. And notice also that the female actress was listed herself as a shengzhi, or a business person. Now, once you've learned this person's profession and all these other things about them, if you're a very sociable person, you may wish to ask them out to learn even more about them. And you would ask them out to dinner or a meal of some sort by saying, 我现在请你吃饭, which means today I ask you out to eat a meal. And then you might end with zamaya, which means is that okay, more or less. And supposing you weren't sure what the day was and if that day would work for you to go out and eat a meal with a stranger, you might ask them Xingqi Yi or Jintian Xingqi Yi Ma, which would be asking them if today were Monday, depending on whether that day worked for you. In Chinese, when you want to ask, or simply say the day of the week, you would say Xingqi, and then a number, Yi or a san, and so on, going all the way up to 6, Leo, starting with Monday. So Xingqi Yi would be Monday, Xingqi would be Tuesday, and so on, except for Sunday. Sunday would be Xingqi Jin, which means, which it gets its own day because it is the day of the Lord. Now, if that particular day, right then at that moment, worked for the person, they would say how, which means good, or that it worked for them. Or they might say boo how, which means not good, and it didn't work for them. Now, if right at that moment, on that day, did not work for them, they might suggest their own time or day. They might say qi dian ma, which would mean qi, 7, and dian, a point on the clock, so 7 o'clock, and then ma, question. And if that worked for you, you would say how.
来那位，今天是星期六吗？
是。
我现在请你吃饭，真没完。
不好吃的饭吗？
好，我们七点吃饭。
好。
Now, once you're done talking to this person and your socialness has run dry, you may simply end it with the simple zaijian. Now, since this conversation started generically, it will end generically with zaijian.
再见。
哦，再见。
再见。